Welcome to Global Future Mobility Virtual Conference. In this panel session, we will be discussing the topic Future Parking Solutions for Individual Vehicles and Urban Traffic Management. The increasing rate of private cars usage in the urban areas as a result of fast-growing economy is the main cause of making car parking one of the main concerns for transport and traffic management all over the world. However, creating more parking spaces isn't necessarily going to solve all traffic congestion in densely populated cities. For our panel session, we have two speakers. Let me introduce them. We have Mr. Alexander Meister. Alexander Meister heads customer success at Graphmasters, creating collaborative routing mobility solutions in an ever more mobile world. He draws from a wide range of experiences and assignments in different countries and successfully expands Graphmasters' business in smart metropolitan mobility. We also have Mr. Frido Stutz. Mr. Frido Stutz studied aircraft engineering and became a pilot, flight instructor, and examiner in the Swiss Air Force and several international airlines before he developed some innovation for automated car parking and later bicycle parking systems. And he founded several companies, the new one being V-Locker, for smart urban e-bike parking. The increasing rate of private car usage in the urban areas as a result of fast economy, or like I mentioned just now. However, creating more parking spaces won't solve the problem. Mr. Frido, can you share some case studies of how to improve parking problems, especially in congested cities and developing countries? As I know you have created a few companies to solve this. Would you like to share with us?
Of course. Hello, everybody. Yes, what we have done, we have developed systems for dense parking of vehicles, all kind of vehicles. First, we started with cars, with the automated parking system where you drive in your car into a box and then you lift the box and the car is being measured and then automatically parked based on the size of the car, of the length and height. So the result of it is that we can park 3 times the number of cars in the same volume of a building compared to a conventional car parking garage. And the newest one is now bicycle parking, because bicycle riding is booming all over here in the Western world. And those millions of bicycles, especially also e-bikes, want to be protected, of course, because there is vandalism, there is weather, which is not good for the bicycles. And here we have also developed what we call bicycle towers. Basically, V-Locker is the brand name, which is a paternoster lift system where you have an app on your smartphone, and then you can find the places where those towers are. You can do a booking on one of the boxes there, and then it shows you the navigation, how you get there. And once you're there, an empty box is there, the door opens on a push off on the bottom, and then you sliding your bicycle, your backpack, your helmet, whatever you want to be placed in there. And on a push on the bottom, the door will close and is safely parked in a vertical tower. These towers are going up to 20 meters, so it can park up to 20 bicycles, e-bikes in one tower, which is very slim. It's only 1.6 meters wide and 2 meters long and about 20 meters height. So basically on a conventional park spot for a car, up to 3 such towers can be placed. So let's say you can put up to 60 bicycles on one car parking space.
Okay. So one parking space, instead of just putting one car, you could fit 30 bicycles, and that's vertical. And this would be very easy for the consumers to use. It would just be on their phone, just like any other app.
That's right. It's very modern software. It's an app on a smartphone where you see the towers and you could control the towers with this smartphone app. And it can be basically installed everywhere between buildings, on buildings' walls, or separately near to train stations or wherever bicycle parking is being needed.
Yes, and also going to your website, I see that other than also solving parking problems, it also becomes another added value when it's also a source for advertisement for companies.
Of course, this is an add-on. Basically, you could finance the tower just with advertisement, because there's of course a lot of space to put advertisement on it, and this helps, of course, to finance those parking towers.
Yes, talking about financing, talking about budgets for public infrastructure are always tight, and constructing roads and bridges is always expensive. So, Mr. Alexander, if you had to suggest one first step, just one system that cities can implement to improve their travel experience and smooth the traffic flow without a major investment in roads, what would it be? Other than Mr. Frido's tower.
Yes, indeed. I would have one suggestion to make. Actually, what we implemented or what we developed is a piece of software, routing software, where we have every single user connected to each other in the cloud. That means that if you have to decide you want to go to a restaurant or to a larger event, like a football game, for instance, you can actually implement not only the dynamic parking strategies that you will find once you're there, but you can also suggest onto which routes should event goers actually take the routes to the event. So this greatly frees up parking space and at the same time space on the roads. This is what we do. So you basically find a navigation app on the internet, free of charge, of course, because people are come to expect navigation is a free service. So we are a free service, and event providers actually can start using the venue manager to manage incoming traffic to their sites. And by this, they can actually increase their customer experience or the customer journey of their incoming people.
So this is what you would suggest, because this way is just as simple as, like what Mr. Frido said, just downloading an app and using smarter navigation systems so they would navigate better and they won't use one road and traffic and causing traffic congestion. So the roads around
Actually, what happens is you have different stakeholders, right? So
yes.
on the roads, everybody meets. So on the roads, you have the commuters. On the roads, you have the concert goers, you have the sports people, you have bicycles, you have bus lanes, and so on. So what we've developed is a system where every car owner, once he downloads NUNAV, can ask our system on every single injunction that there is, do I have to turn right? Do I have to go straight on, or do I have to turn to the left? And this is a paradigm shift to selfish routing applications which are out there currently, because they calculate routes individually and then they take a look on traffics. And this is why you very often see one route and two alternative routes. But in the end, it's the end user who has to make the decision. Now, in our case, this is completely different. In our case, you say you want to go to a football game, let's say, and with the football game, you simply type in the name of the football game, and then you state, are you a visitor, or are you a professional, or are you a VIP? And then suddenly you create a customer experience by selecting, yes, I'm a visitor. And maybe you can even suggest if you're in the west of the area where your seating is, or in the north, or in the east, or in the south. And based on this, you have people from the traffic management side to look at this, and they know where best to send people who won't have to go to the west side of the stadium. And then these people, by simply selecting, yes, I want to go to the west side of the stadium, they will be driven on the routes which is best for them, freeing up space for other people on the road. And this is what we would suggest, yes.
And would this be integrated with the public transport system, so they know what time to get on a bus or what time to get on a train? Yeah,
sure. So what we already did this here in Germany. So it's very simple. I mean, you arrive on a certain parking area, like a public transport system parking area, and then once you're there with the car, the navigation system asks you, do you want to continue with public transport? And then it redirects you simply to either the new app, GVH app or Hochbahn app in Hamburg, for instance, and then people just continue their ride with public transport or even with bicycles. I mean, why not integrating simply? Do you want to continue with the bicycle or you want to continue with public transport?
So it's easy for them to use, and anyone could use it. So even those who don't own their private cars, and they are relying solely on public transport. So I want to talk a bit about my country, or where my place is at. So I'm from a city in Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital in Malaysia. So Kuala Lumpur, we attempted to create bicycle lanes, but it doesn't work well when enforcement isn't in place. And there's a lot of cars and vans and buses that are blocking the lanes. Another problem that we had is people dumping bikes everywhere. And in the end, the bike companies, they folded, even the e-sharing bikes. So, Mr. Frido, how do we ensure the safety of parking lots and bike lanes? Can you share some case studies on how it's done in Switzerland, what's already done? And can this be applied to developing countries where infrastructure is not in its optimal state yet?
Yeah, sure, Ken. Yes. I mean, over here, cities are dense, maybe more dense than Kuala Lumpur, I don't know, but near train stations or also office buildings, of course, there are a lot of bicycles, and bicycle is becoming very popular more and more, especially now also during the Corona crisis, even more. And with the implementation of all these e-bikes, of course, the radius is getting much bigger. So people, let's say before, with conventional bicycles, people went maybe 3-4 kilometers for commuting. Otherwise, they took public transportation or their cars. And now with e-bikes, they're commuting like 10 or even 15 kilometers, So the radius, or let's say the area where people go by bicycle to their destinations is getting much, much bigger. And so we have more and more bicycles, of course, and the bicycles are getting more expensive also because almost half of the bicycles are in the meantime e-bikes, and it means that the value of an e-bike is maybe 5,000-6,000 euros or even more. And those people with those expensive bicycles, they don't want to keep these bicycles just outside next to the other cheap bikes. So the risk to being damaged or stolen or vandalism is, of course, too big. That's why people want to have their bicycles secured. And the other problem is, very often an argument of a car driver is, why do you go by car, not by bicycle? Say, okay, after work or whatever, I go for playing tennis or go to a sport activity or whatever, my shopping bag. Also, I need a trunk, The bicycle driver does not have a trunk. And what we offer is a locker for bicycle and other things. You can put your helmet, your bicycle helmet, your rain jacket, or your shopping basket, everything in there. It's a personal, fully secure locker, not only for the bicycle, also for any other accessories. And this, of course, gives added value to bicycle riding. It makes it easier, it makes it safer, and on a very small area. So normally a bicycle is like 80 centimeters wide, it's 2 meters long. It basically needs a ground area of 1.6 square meter. Of course, you can sometimes put them a little bit closer together, but it needs a lot of space. And where you have thousands of bikes, it needs a lot of space. Underground constructions are very expensive. At going underground, it needs a lot of money to investment for this. For example, here in this area, normally an underground bicycle station costs about 10 to 15,000 euros per bicycle being bicycle capacity. With our system, we use less space and it can be erected above the ground for a fraction of this investment. And this makes it very interesting. It's also the installation time is very short. Once you order this, you get this in a couple of months. It can be erected within 1 day. And the other big advantage is it can be adjusted to the needs. So let's say you have a need for, let's say, 400 bicycles. It could be like 20 towers each to each other, side by side, on a very small area. And the other big advantage is with 20 towers, 20 people can come at the same time and park their bicycles. And 6, 7, 8 seconds later, the next 20. So it has a high throughput, which is very important because people, they don't come one every 20 seconds. Normally they come in groups and then they want to have their bicycles immediately. And this is a big advantage of our system, that the throughput is very, very high. So there won't be any waiting time, basically. So even let's say a train arrives and there are 20 people coming from the same train to get their bicycle, they can get it immediately.
You actually already answered one of my questions that I wanted to ask, which is why not underground? And now I know it's much, much, much more expensive.
Absolutely. One thing is it's much more expensive. It takes time. I mean, doing an underground constructions is a lengthy phase, a lengthy period. It takes, let's say, years to plan it, and another years to do the construction work. And the other thing is it's very it creates a lot of CO2 emissions. I mean, carrying out thousands of cubic meter soil out of the city is a very very much inefficient. It's a lot of bad. It's bad to the environment. It damages the roads and a lot of CO2 emissions. So our system is, of course, much more environmental friendly than underground installations. The other thing is also people don't like this underground system because they have to drive down somewhere via a ramp, very complicated, and then they have to find, of course, the place where to park their bicycles. Could be like maybe a double stacker or whatever, which is very heavy also for heavy bicycles, not easy for women especially. And the other thing, then they need stairs and lifts to go up to their destination, wherever they want. This is a train station or whatever. It's complicated, it takes a lot of time. Our system is very flexible. It can be placed anywhere between buildings, in corners, at other buildings or wherever people want it. It can be decentralized. Otherwise, they are huge, centralized, big bicycle parking stations, which people don't like.
So it's centralized, and it also it's much faster to build. And when you mentioned about one tower can fit 20 bicycles, and so you can have 400 bicycles at a time. This also makes me think that also for events. So even for events for near stadiums and such, this would be a better choice, because people will come in droves, people will come in groups, and they need to park all at once. So I want to talk about traditional modes of transport. So traditional modes of transport infrastructure cannot support the demand for mobility in today's mega cities. Think about Jakarta. Transport routes have turned into a complex puzzle, what that can only be solved with big data, smart algorithms, connected vehicles, IoT, strong collaboration between the private and public sectors. I want to ask Mr. Alexander, what are your policy suggestions and improvements?
Well, if everything is interconnected, like with intelligent transportation systems, what you need to do is you need to put them in a cooperative mode. And by being cooperative, you have to take the navigation system that everybody is using in their cars actually into account. So we would propose a system where a traffic management agency can basically decide which roads the people are using when the navigation system tells them to go to the stadium. And this is exactly our policy suggestion. So you have to integrate a new workflow, because it's not enough anymore to put up road signs telling you to turn to the right or going straight ahead. You have to use a road capacity model on top of it. You have to tell an individual car, yes, you can go to the right, and you have to tell the car who's just behind him to go straight on. Both of them might have the same destination, so you have a dynamic destination management with it, but they use the routes much more effectively. Like in today's world, 90% of all our travel happens on about 10% of all our roads. That means that actually there are enough roads out there, and even in the Western world, it's very, very, very complicated to have new, I don't know, motorways, new roads, whatever. We simply have to use the capacity of the roads which are there in a much more efficient way. And that doesn't only mean that you have to decrease the number of people who want to head to the cities at 7 o'clock in the morning for their work. You have to manage the roads capacities, and this is best by suggesting to people what type of navigation they should use, and then making it mandatory, of course, for the navigation system providers that they have to ask traffic management where they should go. If you think of planes, this is being used all the time. Every plane has a slot, and so we're putting every car in a slot management system and on the capacity roads model, and it works. And it actually, you don't have to reach all the people who are out there. You have to reach a very small percentage of the people just to take an alternative route, which traffic management has thought of. And by doing so, these people actually, they will find out that they will be much faster at the convention. We can see this every time that there is a Hanover Trade Fair here in Hanover, or even in Cologne, where the city council implemented specific roads only for trade fair visitors. And of course, the city council wants to know, where are people going? Are people reaching their final destinations through the roads that they have designed them to do so? And we can actually tell the traffic management people, yes, this is where the roads which we've implemented in the navigation system. And we can tell the customer which roads they should use. And in the end, we can bring this up together for improvements. So it's like a big win-win situation where traffic management puts in the experience that they have in a navigation system. And this is what current navigation system, in our point of view, lack a little bit. So you need to be more collaborative. People need to work together. They have to define together, shall I turn to the right, straight ahead, or to the left?
And this I would also call win-win because you don't have to create new routes. And if I heard you right, what you mentioned just now was that the routes are underutilized, they're not being used. There is enough routes. It's just that everyone is using the same route.
Yeah,
and,
in particular, this is true. And then you have new modes of transport. I mean, nowadays, or even here in Berlin or Munich or Hamburg, roads are taken off, and I don't know, restaurants put their tables outside. So instead of having a 2-lane street, now you have a 1-lane street, and that puts a lot of pressure on the on traffic. But you can simply, you can manage this, and the more complicated it gets, the better a computer system can actually decide on which road should you use today.
Yeah, that's actually a huge thing in Malaysia. The problems of the roads are being taken by shops and such, sidewalks. People don't even have places to bike in Malaysia, because there's just no roads. Okay, we're actually nearing the end of the discussion. Okay, is there anything you wanna add?
No, of course, you have to create infrastructure and secure bike lanes and so on. But all that I'm saying is that as soon as you have roads, you can manage the roads capacity dynamically, and this helps everyone.
True. Mr. Frido, is there anything you want to add about policy?
Yes, of course. Basically, all the vehicles, they are only 5% on the roads, and 95% of the time, the vehicles, is either a car or a bicycle, is being parked. So if we want to do this change in urban mobility, we not only have to look at the passes and roads and ways, we got to look also at the parking facilities for this, because only if the parking is provided, people can use their vehicles, otherwise they cannot. So first, the parking situation has to be clarified and let's say revolutionized to attract people, especially to use economical and ecological vehicles like e-bikes and bicycles, etc. And I think this is something which is done in many cities now over in Europe during the Corona crisis, because there were less cars but more bicycles. They were now splitting the roads into two, one for car and one for bicycles. Actually, they're increasing the bicycle passes and resize the car roads. So this is something which, of course, has to be done to attract people to use environmental friendly vehicles like bicycles. We need parking space, and of course, once we have the parking space for this, we can attract people to use the bicycles in the urban mobility.
All right, and now we've reached the end of our session. Thank you so much, Mr. Frido and Mr. Alexander, for sharing your insights with us. And thank you to our viewers. Thank you for our viewers for joining in. Please continue the discussion in the chat box.
Thank you
And
very
that's
much.
it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.